In Tucson today, protests continued over Arizona's tough new law cracking down on illegal immigration. Hundreds turned out to rally against the law in front of Congressman Raul Grijalva's office. He's called on industries from manufacturing to tourism to boycott his own state.
There has to be an embarrassment sanction, and that's part of it, and there has to be an economic sanction.
The economic impact of the bill, signed by Republican Governor Jan Brewer Friday, has many in Arizona nervous. The state is dependent on the $18 billion visitors spend here annually to support more than 160,000 tourist-related jobs. And of the 37 million tourists that visit the state, nearly 4 million come from Mexico, all legally with money to spend. The new law gives police broad powers to question people's immigration status and require them to provide proof of citizenship. Critics say that will lead to racial profiling, something Governor Brewer addressed head-on yesterday.
I will not tolerate racial discrimination or racial profiling.
Businesses here remember the last time there was an economic boycott from 1990 to 1993. The state lost 170 conventions and $300 million from boycotts because of the state's failure to approve a Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
I'm not willing to stand by and see everything that I've worked for, my community, go down the drain.
The governor says the state has no choice. It's estimated there are 500,000 illegal immigrants living in Arizona, that 9% of the state's population, nearly double that of what it was 20 years ago.
But Arizona has already seen that enforcing tough immigration laws is easier said than done. 3 years after passing a tough crackdown on employers hiring illegal immigrants, an enforcement audit found that half the businesses checked had hired undocumented workers. Jeff?
All right, John Blackstone in Phoenix. John, thank you. Joining us now from Washington to help put the immigration debate and the rest of the week in focus is political analyst John Dickerson. John, clearly a great deal of passion on this issue, both in Arizona and in Washington. Right now, does the White House have the support for immigration reform?
No, the president doesn't have the votes. He called some Republicans this week to try to convince them. They weren't convinced, and he's going to have a tough fight ahead of him on this. The Democrats think even if something doesn't pass, they can get Hispanic voters excited. The problem with the politics on this is that conservatives also get very excited about immigration reform. Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, has said moving too fast on immigration will ruin any efforts to work with Graham on climate change bills. So the politics of this are very exciting and unpredictable.
Meanwhile, let's go back to these Goldman emails for a second, if we can, because we know the Senate begins debate on financial reform this coming week. How do these emails affect that debate?
Well, they help the White House. The White House has been trying to say Republicans are in the pocket of Wall Street to the extent that these emails make Goldman Sachs and Wall Street look bad. That puts pressure on Republicans. But Democratic leaders in the Senate say they don't have the 60 votes they need. What's keeping Republicans held together on this is that they think while Wall Street is unpopular, the government is also quite unpopular. So the notion that government is here to help you is not necessarily a winning argument in this case.
John Dickerson joining us, as always, from Washington. John, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.